Alohu.
Alohu.
May we rise and face the east. Eshadala Henu Leabotenu, Abiaba Mabi Yitzkat Wabi Yako, Atakwados Wish Mikakwados Balush Mekalam Wae, with Shamru Bene Israel Al Shabbat La So Al Shabbat La Dor Tamini Ola, Beni Bene Israel Oti Lola, Kisha Shakmi Shaddai Wa Shamaim, where Taharetz Ubayom Mashbi Shabbat Wa Nafash, Baruch Shemeka, Baruch Yemeneka, Baruch Torateka, Baruch Kudushateka. El Shaddai Malek, El Shaddai Malak, El Shaddai Imlok Lolam Wahe, Baruch Shem Kabol Malkuto Lolam Wahe, Baruch Kabol Lohim Min Kumon Malek Elyon, Hallelujah Lolam Wahe. First of all, I'd like to give all honor and praise to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the great mighty and revered God, the Most High God, who bestows loving kindness, possesses all things, who remembers the pious deeds of the patriarchs, the Most High, slow of anger, great in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgressions, but who by no means clear the guilty, visiting iniquities of the fathers upon children to the third and fourth generation. The Most High's work is perfect, for all his ways of justice, the God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and right is he. Giving due respect and honor to head in Israel, Chief Eleazar, to the chief men, princes, brothers and sisters, I say unto you the tongue of my forefathers. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom Lekah.
Kagamazot Shalom.
Kagamazot Shalom Lekah.
The last day of the feast of unleavened bread, which is the seventh day. We go through all the rules every year. Every year we go through the rules because people come up with ideas. New ideas, new opinions, new concepts, and new views. When we all gotta do is stick to what the book says. It's right here. Whatever isn't clear to you in English, you should be referring back to the Hebrew to get the clear meaning of what we need to be doing, which is going into the Hebrew. To learn this law, you need the Hebrew. There's no way we're going to learn about this God, learn the ways and the customs and the things that God accepts by just reading in English. You must transfer to the Hebrew because the Hebrew gives you a broad spectrum, a more of a meaning of what
much more
clearer. And this is what if we have decided and made our mind up to serve this God, then you will go through the necessary changes, the necessary corrections to learn about what God accepts, to learn about what God don't accept. See, we got to make our mind up, man. Our minds are not made up. And people come towards serving this God, but their minds don't be made up, talking about they still have little doubts about this and doubts about the other. As long as you come towards this God, learn about these laws, commandments, and statutes with doubts, nothing is going to be clear to you. Nothing is going to be clear to you because you have doubts. This is why I always say when you come to serve this God or when you learn about this God, you have to let go of your past. We must let go of our past. You have to acknowledge that everything that you was taught in your past life was completely wrong. Completely wrong. You got to accept that. When you accept that, then everything else here will be clearer. Everything here will be more accepted. Everything here will be more digested. You will understand it more. And whatever you don't understand, you leave it alone. Because everything that we read here is not for us to understand. and ask questions about. Like one person asked me, he said, what is the significance of the blue around the fringe? I said, well, brother, did you read in the book about a significance about the blue? He said, no. Anybody say nothing? No. Do you read about a significance about the blue?
No.
No. Do you read where they explain anywhere about using the blue? Right. No. Then why are you asking me that? That's right. That's right. Those are questions that ought not to be asked. Yeah. Those are questions that ought not to be asked because you don't read it here. You shouldn't be asking that. That's right. That information is not for me. Right. That information is not for you. That information God did not reveal to us. Right. So therefore, the brother said classified information. That information ought to be left alone. That's right. God did not reveal that to us. He said the secret things belong to who? That's right. He said the secret things belong unto the Most High God. He said, but the things that are revealed belong unto us and to the children of men. So whatever God revealed to us is for us to know. Whatever God did not reveal to us, we got to learn to leave that alone. We got to learn and understand to leave those things alone. That's what takes you off. Those type of thoughts and those type of things, when you start venturing off into those ways, it takes you off. Those things takes you off and blow you right off track. Blow you right off. Because everything in here is not explained. Everything in here, God don't explain to us the meaning of this and the meaning. He just said, do it. That's right. That's why there's a thing called, like I said, like I always said, blind allegiance. Right. Blind allegiance. And when a person has blind allegiance, you don't have to explain every itty bitty thing to the person. They read it, they accept it for what God said. God commanded me to do this, I must do this. I ain't gotta ask no questions or find out the reason why I'm doing this. Whatever God wants us to realize the reason, it's already here. He said, observe the Sabbath day. Remember the Sabbath day. He said, why? He said, because I rested on the Sabbath day. And when you look up the word for rested as yanak, it means to leave alone, to desist, to pull back, to stop, to put a cease to. So when God created the heavens and the earth and the constellations of the heavens, created land, right? Grass, herb-bearing seed, whose seed is in itself, the trees, and created all this. Guess what? Tobago wasn't thought about. No. Panama wasn't thought about. No. The Americas wasn't thought about. No. There was no other place thought about or life created but that one spot, which is the Garden of Eden. And when you read in the Apocrypha, he said, when Adam ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil that God commanded him not, at that point in time, things started to get shifted and get to broad. The world changed. More land started to get embroidered and stretched out. Because now he has to leave this spot. That's right. He got to leave. That's right. That's what you got. Him and Eve must leave this area. That's correct. Because now you done ate something that I done command you not to eat from. I didn't tell you why you shouldn't eat from it. I just said don't eat from it because in the day you eat from it, you're gonna die. And you allow this serpent to beguile you and trick you into doing something that is against what God said. Right. See, that's the job That's the job of the adversary. Why you think the word shatan means to be adverse? Who is he adverse against? Who is he contrary to? He's against God. He's adverse to God. He's contrary to God. He's opposite to God. Shatan was one of the Creator's angels. And people say, there's no devil. He said, ain't no such thing as the devil. He said, ain't no such thing as a Satan. He said, it's just, where you get this erroneous idea from, man?
Job is a story. It's made up.
Where you get this erroneous idea? When you read in Job 1st chapter, he said, the angels of God reported back to the Most High. Yeah. Okay? I'm going to go there quick fast. He said the angels, and then who popped up in the midst of them? Who popped up in the midst of them? Huh? So why do people say things that the book doesn't back up what you just said out of your mouth? You're going against what we read here. You understand? Now, it says, now look at here. He said, there was a day when the sons of God are angels, came to present themselves before the Lord. It said, and Satan came also among them. The word Satan is shatan. Shatan means to be adverse, to an adversary, the accuser, to contend. Okay? So there is an entity named Satan or Shatan.
Identified.
Yes. And he was one of God's angels. But he contended against God. He turned against God. And when he contended against God, he has followers also. He took followers with him. Now, he's left here on earth to prove that you are against God. And I have to prove to God that I'm not against him by adhering to the laws, commandments, and statutes. And how can I guard my soul from this evil entity, from this wicked, evil entity? I must remain holy. Holy meaning set apart. I must remain separate. Holy meaning separate. How do I remain separate? By adhering to the laws, commandments, and statutes of God. Now, by me adhering to the laws, commandments, and statutes of God, now I don't build a boundary. I don't build a shield around my spirit. I don't build an edge around my spirit by adhering to God. Now that edge will keep that evil entity from entering in. He can't enter in. He can't get in. Those evil thoughts can't come here. He can't persuade me and make no suggestions and put in my head to do something that is against what God hates. That's right. To do something against God. He can't penetrate no more. But in the day that I transgress and sin against God, now there's a breach and an opening in my spirit. Now the back door done left open for the entity to creep in. For evil thoughts to creep in. Of thoughts that is against what God says. We must protect ourselves against this by adhering to the laws, commandments, and statutes of God. By not sinning presumptuously. I know this is wrong. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I still go do it. I still go do it. I don't understand why people say certain things that's not in the book. Why do we add on to what we read here? The book was perfect. There's no flaws here in God's laws. There's no flaws in God's commandments. There's no flaws in these statutes and laws and commandments. Now, we're going to get into Exodus 20. We're going to get into the basics. The nation of Israel lived many years with these laws. And all the laws that came after Exodus 20 stems from this. Stems from these laws, commandments, statutes. So now, when we left, when God, the Creator knew what he was doing when he brought us through that Sinai Peninsula. He knew what he was doing when he brought us through that Sinai Peninsula, because where he was taking us to, it was that holy mountain, Mount Sinai. Yes, it was a holy mountain. They said strange sounds done came out of that mountain. Strange things done went down in that mountain. And people was afraid to go up in that mountain. Afraid to even go near it. God told him, he said, listen, bring the people, keep the people away from women for 3 days. For 3 days. And then after them kept them out, then when they're clean, he said, you bring them towards this mountain. Set boundaries around this mountain, because when my presence comes down on this mountain, I don't need nobody breaking through trying to see what I look like. Because if you gaze and you see something, my wrath gonna break forth, and I'm gonna wipe everybody out.
You're gonna get shot through.
You're gonna get shot through.
Gonna shoot out.
So he said, set boundaries so that people don't gaze. Moses is in the mountain. He said, oh, Most High. He said, oh, God. He said, you already told me and instructed me to set boundaries. He said, hey, he said, go back down and remind these people and tell these people. Because God know the people, that these people are stubborn and stiff-necked. Somebody gonna break through trying to see what God look like. Now what happens now? Now people start making images of what God looked like, and they start praying to an image. That's why God said, listen, stay away from these images, man. Stay away from these likenesses. Stay away from all these things. But once again, the people tend to lean to their own heart's lust. People tend to lean towards their own heart lust. And our own heart's lust is contrary and opposite to God. Contrary and opposite to God. So now the Most High brought us through this wilderness to bring us to this holy mountain. Okay, let's go. Exodus chapter 20.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
He said, I am the Lord thy God. He said, I am God. Because the people just envisioned something, a lot of miraculous things that went down in Egypt. He said, okay, now, I'm going to show these people, I'm going to show Pharaoh who's God, and I'm going to show these people who is God. At this point in time, Israel don't know God. Generations and generations and generations done passed. They done stayed in Egypt for 430 years, serving the Egyptians, serving their gods, serving their deities. So when they left Egypt with the mentality of Egyptians. With the mentality of Egyptians. That's why most people, when you bring them towards these laws, commandments, and statutes, they don't change 100%. They don't let go of what they was taught. They still hold on to something. Hold on to things that they was taught in the past. And that's what the nation did. They still held on to other things that was in Egypt. That was their downfall. They didn't break that. They didn't let go of these things. Go ahead.
Thou shalt have no
now
other
he
God.
said, okay, now he said, I'm the God. He said, I'm the God. that brought you up out of Egypt. I'm the God that put all these 10 plagues upon Egypt. I'm the God that sent Moses and Aaron to deliver you out the hands of these Egyptians. He said, I'm the God. He said, I did all that. That right there should have substantiated and put the ground proof on everything, because they seen, look, these people seen with the naked eye what was going on, and they didn't know, they didn't realize who was doing it. They didn't realize what God, or who was doing this. The powers of this everlasting God. So God took them through the wilderness, took them to the mountain, and the first thing God said, he said, I am the Lord thy God, which had brought thee out of the land of Egypt. He said, I'm the God that delivered you out of the hand of Pharaoh. These people truly feared Pharaoh and these hosts. They was wiping them out. Okay, go ahead, read.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Thou shalt have what?
No other gods.
Thou shalt have no other gods
before me.
Before me.
That's
all right? Now, Lo Yihiyeh Leka Elohim Akarim Al Panai. Akarim means to go after. You should not go after other gods. To go after means subsequent to. All right? It also means to be in accordance with. To be in accordance with, to be in accord with means to agree with. Right? So, once I'm not in agreement with my God and with his laws and with his commandments and with his ways and the things that I read here, you are in agreement with whom? You are in agreement with other deities or with entities or idols and deities and ways and the customs of these people that is adverse and opposite to what God says. Opposite and adverse to what God says. That's why it's very important to agree with these laws. Agree with God. Because when I don't agree with God, who are you agreeing with?
That's right.
Who am I in accordance with? And Amos says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? And I stand on that. Me and you can't walk together if we don't agree on the same purpose. If we're not agreeing on the same thing. Because if we don't agree on the same thing, then there's going to be friction. So we're going to clash. Because I agree one thing and you agree something different. Now, we both going to be moving in two opposite directions. Positive and negative. It's not going to hold. It's not going to hold. That's right. Now, to resemble means to be like. To be like.
Just like. To be exactly.
There's nothing. My lifestyle cannot be the same like theirs. My lifestyle cannot be the same like theirs. That's why my pops used to always say, he said, man, I'm different. He said, I don't do nothing like these people. And he made sure that everything he did was completely different than the people that he lived amongst. You know why? He said, because I don't want God looking at me as the same. You see where his mind is at? I do not want God to look at me as the same as these people. So therefore, if I don't want God to look at me as the same as these people, that's going to bring about changes. Now you will begin to change things within yourself so that you don't be the same like them.
That's right. That's right.
You see the mentality that you have to acquire in order to bring changes within one's person's life?
Total different mentality.
The mentality that we need to acquire that's going to trigger off changes.
Right.
You don't want to be like them, and you don't want God to look at me like them. That's what it is. I don't care what people think. I don't want God to look at me the same like these people, because then I'm going to be treated the same. So now guess what happened now? Your mentality got to flip. Your lifestyle got to flip. Your character got to flip. The way you think got to flip. Everything about you got to change towards the mentality of the saints and the pious ones and the elected ones and the chosen ones that God chose and took for himself. These people that we read about. That's why he said, listen, I'm not no Panamanian.
That's right.
He didn't look at himself as a, even though he was born in Panama, but I didn't look at myself as no Panamanian. Right. He said my forefathers was dropped. I was dropped off here. I was dropped off here. All right? To be like or similar, right? To be suitable or agreeable to. To be suitable or agreeable to. Me and a man out there that don't serve this God, what do we have in common? No. What? There is nothing me and a heathen should have anything in common.
That's right.
Because my lifestyle is completely different. And because my lifestyle is different, I'm going to think different. Right. Just like my definition and how I defined adultery. This is why I acquired these thoughts. This is why my thoughts is different. Who changed my thoughts? God changed my thoughts. I read the book. God told me what is adultery. God has revealed to me and told me what is adultery. God has revealed to me and told me what is marriage? What is adultery? Who's a thief? Who's a liar? What does it mean to covet? What is love? God told me that. So now my mentality is towards God. It's towards what God says. So when we begin to talk and say certain things, people look at you like you're strange. I said, people look at you like you're strange because your
needs to be accepted.
Your definition for certain things is not the same.
It's against what they say.
Not the same. It's against what you were saying. It's against what you was taught. It's against what your parents taught you. It's against what you was showed. It's against what you believe. It's against all that. Why? Because God is against it. God is against it. The only thing God ain't against is holiness. The only thing God ain't against is righteousness. Read the book. You read the book. Read the book. Take some time out and read the book and learn the things. Learn what God is against. Learn what God accepts. Learn what God agrees with and what he don't agree with. Learn that. And when you learn that, you train yourself. Now, after I have learned what God agree with and what God don't agree with, now I will begin to train myself to agree and accept what God agrees with and accepts. Now I will begin to train myself to disagree to what God disagrees with. And that's how a person that has made his mind up will live the rest of his life. But we have to make our mind up before we start making these changes. Everything begins here. everything. You're not going to put forth no action towards these laws if you don't make your mind up.
That's right.
You're not going to put forth no action towards these laws if you don't change your mentality and the way you think. That's not going to happen. Go ahead, Tom Sheep. No, hold on. All right? It also means to follow. To follow means to attend. People don't know this. To follow also means to attend closely. So when certain celebrations, events, special occasions that we attend, that we don't read in the book, what do you think is going on? I'm following after the ways and the customs of these people. Because we don't read about none of these customs and pagan customs in the book, and we go and attend it.
Okay.
We go and attend it.
Okay.
Now God looked at us and said, man, you following after their ways and their customs and their traditions. How else will I shun these ways if I keep attending it? How am I going to shun these pagan festivities if I keep attending it? Person call you, hey, happy Thanksgiving. He said, hey, happy Thanksgiving back. No, I don't say happy Thanksgiving back to you. I said, well, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, miss. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
You know I don't celebrate.
Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, sir. I don't celebrate Christmas. Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, sir. This week, happy Easter. Excuse me, miss. Thank you, but no thank you. I don't celebrate Easter. Easter commemorates from a Sumerian goddess named Ishtar. Under different various names. Ashtoreth. Let me give you another name. Semiramis. Let me give you another name. Astarte. Let me give you another name. Isis. Diana. So I don't celebrate Easter. And Easter has no connection and no comparison to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, to the Passover. The lamb is the body of JC. Where do you see that at?
None.
God only told us to kill the lamb. The only reason for that lamb being killed was to put that blood up on the doorpost and on the side post.
You ain't supposed to be killing no lamb.
Was to put the blood on the doorpost and the side post. Then he said what? He said take the lamb, you roast it whole. With everything together. Pertinence, everything together.
That's a holy sacrifice.
That's it. And that sacrifice happened one time.
So
the Passover happened one time. What is the Passover? When that death angel passed over Egypt and killed the firstborn in that house. There is no death angel passing over us anymore. We're not going anywhere. People got the erroneous idea that we're going back to Jerusalem dry shod. Do we know how many seas that got to be dried up? The Atlantic, Pacific. Listen here. Do you know?
All the coming back happened already.
All that happened already.
From Babylon.
Nowhere in the book stated and gave us a time. Every captivity gave us a time. That's right. 70 years, 40 years here. This amount of years here. This amount of years here. How many years did God give us to be here?
Okay.
None.
That's it.
So we here and stay.
Exactly.
We got to prove ourselves here to be accepted of God, to receive the fruit of his reward, of the godly's reward. Because believe me, the Creator will reward the godly for adhering to his laws, commandments, and statutes. I believe that. I believe that. So yes, I do look forward to something. Yes, I look forward. My expectations and my hope, I look forward is not here.
You know it's not here.
I don't expect nothing here in this life. I don't expect nothing here. You know what's my expectations? When I die. When God take my spirit, command my spirit to leave my body, and I'm sitting up in my chamber, resting amongst the elect and the chosen ones that chose God and his laws over his own thoughts, over the stubborn lust of your own heart. That's what we got to realize, man. We can't put ourselves above God.
No.
We can't put ourselves above the Creator and his laws. Sometimes you got to take a step back and ask yourself, am I doing that which is right according to the laws of God? Am I offending God by doing this? You got to realize that and ask yourself that. Right? Now, to agree means you accept. If I agree with you, I accept you. So if I accept you, I agree with your actions that is against God. Your actions that is against God. Okay? If I accept you and I agree with you, I agree with your action that is against God. That's why Samuel could not accept and agree with Saul. Because his actions that was against God was atrocious. It wasn't right. His actions that was against God made God reject him as being king. And at that time, the Creator had ripped the kingdom away from him. Had took it away from him. This is why Samuel didn't go and worship with him. Because God rejected him. And that tells me that we can't be praying with every and anybody. I cannot pray with any and anybody. Because if I pray with a person that is rejected of God, my prayer it's going to have some type of effect and have some type of ripples. No, we don't pray with Muslims and Christians. We all got different beliefs. Different beliefs. Right? When you agree with a person, you are in accord with opinions. You are in accord with his feelings. You are in accord with his purpose. You agree with it. That's it. Tamshi.
Verse 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. The word for graven image is fesel. Right? A fesel is an idol. It's an idol. Okay? And the graven images and the molten images were idols. False God. The definition of idol is a likeness of something, right? A form or appearance visible without substance. You know what without substance means? Without life. Without life.
Yeah.
That nudges the pictures.
Right.
That nudges and deads me drawing images. Because this image is an image of a man or a woman or a dog or cattle, but they don't have no life. That's why they're images. That's why.
That's right.
And these are things that, look, I'm not gonna, you ain't hurting yourself by staying away from it. You're not hurting yourself by staying away from it.
That's right.
You actually doing yourself a good deed.
That's right.
Because those are the things that corrupts us. Those are the things that corrupts us. All right? Go ahead, read.
Or any likeness of anything.
Or any likeness of anything. You know what's the word for likeness? Temuna.
Uh-oh.
Temuna. What does temuna mean? Pictures. He said, or any picture of anything. So we shouldn't have pictures of what?
That is in heaven above.
Heaven above. What's in the heaven above? The constellations.
Yeah.
Sun, moon, stars, and all the hosts of heaven. We can't have images and pictures of these things. So therefore, if we can't have it, I'm not going to allow people to come into my house with these things that God said that I cannot have.
That's right.
Because we got to realize one thing. You honor and respect God.
That's right.
You honor and respect God. They don't.
They don't. That's right.
So they have, when you don't honor and respect God, you don't have any boundaries. You don't have any lines that you won't cross. You have no limits.
Yeah.
You have no limits. You have no boundaries, man. See, these laws gives you boundaries.
That's right.
Gives you limits. Gives you lines where, hey, I can't cross that line. Why? I got to stay within the limit and within the range of the laws of God. If I cross that line, I will be offending God.
That's right.
I will be offending God.
Yeah.
And God said, I'm a jealous God.
Yeah.
He said, I'm a jealous God, man. We don't care about how God feels.
Sure don't.
We don't care about that, man. I care about how you feel. I care about how my girl feel. I care about how my children feel. But how about if you care how God feels?
Yeah.
How about that, man? Let's try that. God created us, man, and formed us in the womb, caused us to live healthy with all our organs, with no Down syndrome, with nothing, healthy. And you don't think you owe it to God? God exists, man. God exists.
That's right. Yeah.
God exists, man. And he gave us laws, commandments, and statutes to follow. This is the way you can please God. I can't give him a gift. He don't need your gifts. He don't need your money. He said, the cattle upon 1,000 hills is mine. He said, God said, if I was hungry, he said, I won't even tell you, because everything belonged to me.
That's right.
So the only way to please God is to follow his laws. I'm not going to steal because I will be offending God. And when you offend God, when you don't care about offending God, then I will offend you. I will offend what's in front of me. It's nothing for me to offend a person. It's nothing for me to offend this guy here because I offend God and don't care. You see, oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. You know when people begin to you know when people begin to double think about them offending people because they care about offending God. And I don't want to offend this person. I don't want to offend this person in a way that, number one, I'm going to offend God first. That's what keeps me in the realm. That's what keeps me in the way. Because that's what all these laws is. Tells me how to treat you and how you should treat me. How I should deal with you and how you should deal with me. Look, I could offend people with my words. He said, Nabal railed on him.
Those words got him.
With just words. He railed on him. And guess what? As we read, you will see that God didn't like it.
No, he didn't.
He didn't like that. Right? And he returned them evil for the good that David did. God don't like that neither. Which means what? The good that a person do for you never dies. I can't take the good and muffle it. I can't forget that. Even though this person returned you evil and did you evil, I can't go in that state. and I gotta leave it alone. You know what? Cut him off. Get him away from me. Isn't that what King Solomon did?
Yeah.
Was it Abiathar?
Yeah.
Abiathar left the side of David and started running with Adonijah.
Ain't got no business over here.
No business with Adonijah.
No business.
After King David laid the law down, gave Solomon the rules, King Solomon the rules, he went to Abiathar. He said, He said, man, you turned against my father and started running with Adonijah. But because you went through the same hardship with my father, he said, stay in Anatol. He said, you get a pass. You see how righteous men think and the ways of righteous men? That's what saved his life. Abiathar lived behind that just because he ran with King Solomon's father.
But you gotta go over there.
He said, but stay away from me. He cut the ties with him. He said, I don't want nothing to do with you no more. You can stay over there. But because you ran with my father, I'm not going to kill you, man. You'll live. And that's the mentality, that we need to acquire to be accepted of God. I don't see it. Man, dudes will run. They will run down on their father's friend in a minute.
Yeah.
Nothing. They run down on their father's friend in a minute. No patience, no mercy. Chill. Why are you talking to him? Remember, that's your father's friend.
Right.
So therefore, the way I talk to you is going to be different. I'm not going to offend you, because how your father will feel if he see how you're offending his friend. He ain't going to like it. And that's the ways and the mentality that we need to acquire to be accepted of God. Exactly. And that's how God was with Abraham. Those are godly ways. Because God chose Abraham, he chose his seed. He chose Isaac. Because God chose Abraham, he chose Isaac. Then it went down, trickled down into Jacob. Then it trickled down to the 12 sons. Then it trickled down to the children of these 12 sons. Exactly. Which is the nation of Israel. Exactly. And that's why God chose these people. That's why God chose the nation as his and took them to be for himself, because of Abraham. God was their father. That's right. Abraham. That's right. That's right. And why we need to acquire that mentality is because that's the way God thinks. That's the mentality of God. That's his network. That's the mentality of God. Now we see a little. Now we see why God looked at David and said, nah, man. David, he said, I can't do you, man. I can't do that to you, man. He said, you too much like me. You too much like me. He said, he sent Nathan the prophet to him when he violated Uriah the Hittite wife. Sent Nathan the prophet to him. He said, tell that man, he said, man, thou shalt not die.
Yeah.
Told him to choose his punishment. Yeah. He said, I should not. He said, man, but you got an eye like me, man.
You gave a lot of people passes.
Exactly.
That deserves a touch. Man, this guy like me.
Time sheet.
That is in the heaven above.
He said, pictures that is in the heaven above, which is the constellation of the heavens. And all religion stem from astrology.
Yes.
Worshipping JC. Yeah, JC, Jesus Christ.
Sun worship.
It's sun worship. It's sun worship. It derived from sun worship.
Where halos come
because JC is the modern day Nimrod. Nimrod died, was chopped into pieces. Semiramis, who was his mother, who he cohabitated with, had a son, a godchild named Tammuz. They chopped him up. She went to find his pieces. She couldn't find his phallus. Therefore, his spirit resurrected to the sun, which is called Baal, sun worship.
In Greece, it's called Icarus.
That's right.
Right? It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing.
Same story.
Same story. Time sheet. Heaven above.
All that is in the earth beneath.
The earth beneath. What's on the earth beneath? Cattle, dogs, things that's on the earth beneath.
Animals, humans.
Animals, humans. Read.
All that is in the water under the earth.
Oh, that's in the waters under the earth. That's the fishes and the whales of the sea and all that. Go ahead, read.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself.
He said, thou shalt not bow down unto them. The word for bow down is lo tishtakaweh, right? It means to prostrate. You should not prostrate to them. You shouldn't worship them.
Great.
Worship is a part of admiration.
Right.
Admiration. So admiration is worship. Admiration, that admiring goes to God. God said to honor your parents. Honor and glorify your parents, not admire. Go ahead, Tom Sheep.
Nor serve them.
To serve means to comply to the commands and demands of.
You don't have to have the statue around.
You don't need to have the statue around. Just follow the rules. Just follow the commands and the demands of a God, of this God, and you serve God. That's it. Plain and simple. This is why it's very, very important that we don't follow after the commands of these pagan religions, following after their ways and their customs, because God look at you as serving their gods, their deities. Go ahead, Tamshi.
For I, the Lord thy God, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God.
For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. And you know, something told me, he said, God is jealous. He said, what? God is jealous? Yes, God is jealous. What is he jealous of? You know what? Something told me to look up the word jealous. You know what it means? Intolerant. Intolerant of unfaithfulness. That's deep. He's not going to tolerate your unfaithfulness against him. He's intolerant towards unfaithfulness to God. That's right. Once we don't show faithfulness to God, he will not tolerate. He's not going to tolerate that. And that is the definition of jealous. Same thing with man. Same thing with men. When women become unfaithful, guess what happens? He said in Deuteronomy 24, you read, he said she has not found no favor in his eyes, because he saw some unseamless thing in her, an unclean thing in her, an unfaithful thing in her. Now, because I found this unfaithful thing in you, immediately the connection is gone. I don't see myself with you no more. He said, but God said, you've been with every God. You've been with every deity. You've been with every God, every nation. He said, God is still here with his hand stretched forth, waiting for you to return. Waiting for the nation of Israel to return back to him. And you know why God is still here, waiting for the nation of Israel, for the people to return back to him? Because of Abraham. Because of Abraham. Because God holds his word, man. Regardless of what these people is doing, your father was my God. Your father was my God. When you decide to return, I will accept you. Till then, you put distance. Till then, God put distance between us, between the people and God. Till we acknowledge our offense. Till we acknowledge our faults. And that is something that we refuse to do. We refuse to acknowledge our faults with God. We refuse to acknowledge our wrong. And if we don't look, we're not moving in that manner. And because we don't move in that manner, it makes it difficult for the person to acknowledge their faults when they offend people. People also. You didn't see that you was wrong when you offended this guy, when you offended this person. You still want to continue being wrong and strong. Certain things you didn't have to say. You didn't have to say that. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to say that over there. You didn't have to do this. There's a way of doing things without offending. But if you're not on yourself about offending God, you think you're going to be on yourself about offending what's before you? No. Number one, in order to be considerate about offending a person that's in front of you, you got to be considerate about offending God. Reading the book and seeing, damn, by me doing this, I offend God. And when I offend God, look, I offend this guy here because God told me, thou shalt not steal. And I done stole from this person, took something that don't belong to me. It works hand in hand. It keeps you out of that zone. Go ahead, time sheet.
Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon
visiting. And you know, I did some studies about that word, paquad. I was calling Prince Zakaria to ask him, to let him know. I looked up the word paquad. It means visiting. I will visit the sins of the fathers upon the sons. I will remember the sins of the fathers upon the sons. And this one is a banger. I will command the sins of the fathers to be upon the sons. That's heavy. It's there. That's heavy, man. I don't want God to command my sins on my innocent 11-year-old son. It's there automatically. Once you don't change and start putting forth some effort to change towards God, he will command your sins to be upon your kid. And that's automatic. Now you wondering why your son acting all bugged out. It's your sins riding him. It ain't no joke, man. It ain't no joke, man. And that alone should make people start to change. If you believe it. You got to change, man. Because God is going to command your sins to engulf your son. Automatic. Now, when he start doing weird things and start moving in a manner that you don't like, it's you. You is the reason why. Ain't no joke, man. This is not no joke. And if you love your son, you will change your lifestyle towards God. I love my son, and I don't want God to command my sins, my filth, on my son. On my son, man. I don't want that. Because I did some things. Yeah. I did some things that I am ashamed of. Ashamed of. Ashamed of. And certain things I did, I had no knowledge until after. But after, when I found out, I'm guilty. So I don't want God to put those things on my seed. Because I love my 11-year-old son. And if he hurt and I see him messed up, I'm going to hurt. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to feel it. I love my daughters. And if I see them in a predicament, I'm going to hurt and I'm going to feel it. So therefore, that because I believe what I read, then that's going to bring about changes in my life. Mm-hmm. My father said, he said, listen, man, get it now while I'm alive.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Say it. Talk about it.
He said, get it now while I'm alive. You know what he mean by that? Suck the strength.
That's right.
Suck that strength from me because you're going to need it when I'm gone.
That's right.
You know what he said? He said, listen, I'm the strength. He said, you guys suck from me.
Right.
He said, you know where I get my strength from? He said, I get my strength from God.
That's right. That's right.
He said, I don't get weak. He said, I don't get weak.
That's right.
He said, I can't allow myself to get weak because I have to remain strong for you guys.
Yep.
That's the mentality my pops had. That's care. That's love. And why he did that was because he believed. That's the epitome of belief.
That's it. Yeah. That's the motivation.
That was the motivation, man. He said, I gotta remain strong for you guys. Tom sheet.
Visiting the iniquity of the fathers, upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of
them that hate me. A generation is what? 100, like 100 years. Third and fourth generation. You know how many years done transpired and passed on that God is going to remember and command this man's sins to be on and on until someone decides to repair that breach.
That's every line of man.
Every line of man. Somebody had to decide to repair that breach, to stop that plague from running through. How do you repair that breach? By adhering to the laws, commandments, and statutes of the living God, of an everlasting God. Everlasting, anything, look, everlasting, you don't die out. That's why he's called the everlasting one.
There's no end.
There's no end. That's the correct word. There's no beginning and no end to something that's to a God that's everlasting.
Wasn't
born. He didn't have a wife.
Doesn't die, resurrect.
Exactly. Now, we become an enemy of God when we go against his laws. Mm-hmm. We go against God's law, then we are his enemy. Right. We go against his commandments, yes, we are his enemy. Right. We can't go against his laws and say, God loves me, or I love God. How do you love God when you go against his laws, commandments, and statutes? Or how do you think God loves you and I'm against what God says? Mm-hmm. How? That tells you a person's train of thought and the way the person thinks. Yeah. They're off. Way off. Top sheet.
And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
And showing mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Okay? Now, what is love? Affection based on admiration. Like I told you before. Admiration goes to God. Admiring esteem. Feelings of delighted or astonished approbation. You know what approbation is? Approbation is an act of approving formally or officially. We understand that right there? When you approve something formally or what? Or officially. That's when you speak, that's in your words and your actions. And you see it. Formal and official. You speak it. You declare it. Nah, I'm going to serve this God. Nah, I know that what I was doing in my past was not right.
That's right.
And people come to serve God without making declarations. That's why I know you ain't It's false.
Yeah, let me come to that.
It's false. Okay? He said that's love. See, the book tells us what love is.
Right.
The book tells us what love is. Love is not spoken, it's shown. Love is not spoken, it's shown. It's an action. Your action describes whether you love God or not.
Right.
My actions describe whether I love my wife or not.
That's right.
Your action describes whether you love your husband or not.
That's right.
By not being adverse, by not being against your husband.
Uh-huh.
Don't be against me. Don't be contrary to me. When you're contrary to me and you're adverse and opposite to me, that's not love. That's not love. That's the opposite of love. That's hate. All right? Affection based on admiration, benevolence. You know what benevolence is? Benevolence is disposition to do good. Disposition goes into your tendency. Your tendency means what you're prone to do. He said Moses was prone to do God's law, was prone towards God. And once you're prone towards a certain lifestyle, there's no flipping. You can't, there's no riding off the edge. Or there's no what? There's no break. You're not going nowhere else. I'm prone to do these laws, right? Tendency. Inclination, what you are, what are you inclined towards? What your heart is towards, and your character. It means your disposition to do good, which means I have that's in me. I have the ability and the potential to do that which is good. And what is good? According to what God said is good. That's what good is. Not according to what you think is good. According to what God said is good is what is good. That's it. Okay? And common interest. My interest has to be God, the same as the interest of God's. God's interest, we read about it here. We know what God is interested in. That's how our interest has to be flipped and changed towards what is God interested in. Tom Sheedy.
But thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
He said what? Read that again.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. And when we took on the name Israel, why was Jacob named Israel? Because there point in time in history where the angel appeared to Jacob in the form of a man.
Yeah.
And they wrestled.
Yeah.
Now, while they're wrestling, Jacob put a lock on the angel to where he can't get out of.
Yeah, because the form of man.
So the angel looked at Jacob. He said, yo, listen, man, the dawn is breaking. When you look it up in Hebrew, it said the shakarit. There is certain times, it means shakarit. There is certain times when the angels have to report back to God. That was one of the times. And this is when we sent up our offering, the shakarit in the evening offering. And this is why we sent up our prayers during shakarit and the evening offering, because there were set times when the heavens is open for acceptance, for prayers. And this is why we read in the Kings where it said, for 7 days during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, they made confession. There were certain times when there was acceptance, when God accepted certain prayers. So he put that hold on him. He said, yo, let me go, man. I got to report back to God. The shakari is coming in. He said, yo, I ain't letting you go till you bless me. He touched the angel, turned into, like he did it. He started using his power against him, went back into himself and dislocated his thigh. He dislocated his thigh, and he told him his name shall be changed to Israel, which means God prevails, or he prevails with God, right?
Yeah.
And when we take on the name Israel, we took on the name of the Most High. And when we sin, that's when we take God's name in vain, because we took on the name of God and we violated his laws. Time sheet.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Don't forget the rules and the commands and the rules of the do's and the don'ts of the Sabbath. And the do's and the don'ts of the Sabbath, you read about it in the book. You're not going to learn the rules of the Sabbath not reading the book.
Right.
The book tells us what we should be doing on the Sabbath day and what we should not be doing on the Sabbath day.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
Time sheet.
6 days shalt thou labor.
It says 6 days shalt thou labor
and do all thy work.
And do all thy work.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord thy God. In it.
Thou shalt not do any work.
Thou shalt not do any work.
Nor thy son.
Thou, nor thy son.
Nor thy daughter.
Nor your daughter.
Thy manservant.
Your manservant.
Thy maidservant.
What does manservants and maidservants do? They
serve.
They serve their masters. So by you reading that the maidservants and the menservants got a rest, that should tell you that you shouldn't be serving me. People like they have no comprehension when they read. That's why when you go to these different camps, they walk around with a picture of lemonade. Ice cold lemonade coming to you with a cup. And then want to, I said, no, brother. I said, I'm okay. I'm not thirsty. I'm good. I don't want it. I'm good. Then they come and take out chairs and set it up outside. They sit outside with chairs. I'm not carrying nothing when I'm not within the camp or out of my house. Don't look for me to set up nothing. All that I can show you in the book. We don't set up and arrange nothing on Shabbat.
That's right.
I don't walk out my threshold, out of my house with nothing in my hand.
That's right.
I'm not going to go to the camp and carry a chair and a drum outside so I could beat drums outside.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that, man.
Violate.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not attending no Unity Shabbat.
Right.
Where the truck and the band comes in on droves, full with speakers and drums and food. And you have to go inside that van, take out all the equipment, take out all the food, set up chairs. You don't think that that's work? Why we can't have Unity Shabbat on another day besides the Shabbat? Why do we pick the holy day of God that God chose to desist from creating? We pick that day to do our own wanting ways. We don't need to have no Unity Shabbat. Just congregate and that's it. Just congregate and that's it. And then you got people that attend these things. I'm not going to none of those foolishness, man. Because guess what? All they do is play music. Slap, clap, stomp, clap. People walk. Man, listen. I ain't gonna name the camp, but the last Shabbat Gadol I went to, one of the dudes came and I seen the dude out there smoking. I would looked at the person. He said, "Man, smoking a cigarette." Never went inside. We stayed outside because a bunch of atrocities going on. People that was cooking on the Shabbat day. Cooking. You smell the aroma. I said,
everybody was happy.
Everybody happy. I remember that. Singing, eating, coming out with plates of food. The only one that didn't attend that madness was my pops. Looked around, and this was in the 80s.
Yeah, it first started.
This was in the 80s. I'm a child. I'm a little kid. We all kids. He ran with us like we was his soldiers. All 8 of us, we around our pops with garments, turbans. Just observe it. Ain't had nothing to say. And we all flanked our pops. We didn't run around with the kids. We didn't run around with the kids. He take us to these camps. We around him. And he didn't tell us to stay around him. He said, yo, when I go there, just stay where I mean. Well, no, that was just a natural instinct in us to flank our pops as a young age. Everywhere he went, we followed him. Go ahead, read.
But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
But the 7th day is the Sabbath to the Lord thy God.
In it thou shalt not do any work.
In it thou shalt not do any work.
Thou,
nor
thy son,
nor your son,
nor thy daughter,
your daughter,
thy manservant,
your manservant,
thy maidservant,
your maidservant,
thy cattle,
the cattle,
thy stranger.
The cattle. Guess what? That means they didn't go on the horses and galloping. They didn't go on the donkey to travel. They didn't go on the asses to travel. That's why when I tell you that they did not travel on the Sabbath day, you think I'm talking off the side of my head. But they did not travel on the Sabbath day. The travel was the distance between the tabernacle and where they in the encampment. That's it. And that was walking distance. So now, if you really want to do these laws, you have to find out the distance between the camp and the encampment that tells you how my traveling space between here and there. So that you don't mess around and violate the Sabbath day. Tom Sheet. He said, no, thy stranger that is within thy gates. I cannot allow my uncle to visit and they do their own thing in my house. I can't allow my auntie to visit and they do their own thing in my house on the Sabbath.
Or your wife's
I can't allow my wife's relatives to come into my house and do as they please in my house on the Sabbath. No, you come here, you got to respect the day. You got to honor the day. You got to honor his laws. All the way. You cannot leave the house to smoke a cigarette and then come back in.
No. Or disappear altogether.
No. You disappear, don't come back.
You're here all week.
You disappear, don't come back.
True. That's true.
Tom Sheet.
Let it be known. People do that.
For 6
days.
days.
6 days the Lord made heaven and earth.
Okay, he's going to give you an example. He said in 6 days God made the heaven and earth. Read.
The sea.
He made the sea.
And all that in the
midst.
And rested the 7th day.
And rested on the 7th day. We know my God don't rest. God don't sleep. He don't rest. The word for rest is yanak. It means to desist. To stop. To cease from work. Cease from creating. Tom Sheet.
Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Wherefore the Lord thy God blessed the Sabbath day and he hallowed it. He separated it. That was the only day that God blessed. That was the only day that had a name, was the 7th day. Sunday through Friday, they didn't have any names. It was called the first day, the 2nd day, the 3rd day, the 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day. Once the 7th day came, it was called Shabbat. It had a name. All those names are named after Greek gods.
That's correct.
Greek gods. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even that word Saturday are all named after Greek gods. Go ahead.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Honor thy father and thy mother. To honor means to live up to. To live up to what they expect of you. That's what that means. To live up to what they expect of you. So if they expect certain things of you, I can't go against that.
Okay.
My mother don't expect me to do this, and I go and I do it anyway.
Okay.
That's dishonor. We got to learn what dishonor is. The book teaches us what dishonor. To fulfill the conditions of. When you fulfill the conditions of, you fulfill the terms of your parents.
There's terms. There's stipulations.
There's stipulations. Why do you think God didn't appear to Abraham until after the death of his father?
Okay. Tell us.
Why do you think God didn't appear to Abraham until after the death of his father?
Abraham did not tell his father he was a
Abraham ain't tell his father he's going against his idol. No.
That didn't go there.
That didn't happen. That did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead, read. He said, honor thy father and thy mother.
That thy days may be long, upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth.
Tamshi.
Thou shalt not murder.
Thou shalt not murder. In the English, it says, thou shalt not kill. That's the wrong translation. In the Hebrew, it says, lo tirzak. Why that's the wrong translation? Because we got to kill eat. We got to kill eat. I'm hungry. I feed the cow. I'm going to kill the cow. Okay? We kill roaches. We kill rodents. Oh, don't kill. God said, thou shalt not kill. Don't kill the rat. Are you crazy? I'm going to kill that rat. That rat going to die. He run up in here. Raccoon coming here, he attack me. I'm going to kill that raccoon. Possums coming here attacking me. I'm going to kill that possum. Someone is seeking my life. You're going to get killed before I get killed. God don't mean thou shalt not kill. He said, lo tirzak, murder. What is murder? When you take a life that's not justifiable by law. You go take a man's life for stealing. God ain't saying kill the man from stealing for you. He said, allow that man got to pay back.
That's what they do in Africa.
Yeah.
They kill you.
They'll kill you.
They burn you. Yes, they will.
God said, let him pay back.
One really chop your hand off.
That's it. He didn't say chop my arm off if a person steals. No. I had to tell this Muslim yesterday. I said, listen, man, the God of Abraham is different than your God. But Abraham, he's a Muslim. No, where you get that from? I said, where in the Torah do you read that Abraham was a Muslim? I read where he said he's a Hebrew.
He's a Hebrew.
And Hebrews are.
Where you get this from?
He's Hebrew.
I
don't know where you get that from.
Other stories about them out there. That's what
I know what you're talking
there's
about.
fake stories about
I
them.
said, I serve the God of heaven and earth, sea and the dry lands.
Say Abraham and Hebrew.
All right? That's who I serve. I said, do you know that Allah came from, it's a numerous of idols that formed this deity? 360 deities that formed this one.
This one deity.
One deity.
That's a thing.
Then they said Muhammad caught a seizure.
And in
that seizure, he wrote the Quran. Now, don't be a goddamn fool, man. I don't want to hear it. Ain't nobody writing no Quran and no seizure.
You're not going to see no vision.
You ain't going to see no vision because you're damn near dead.
Yes.
When you have a seizure, oxygen stops flowing in your brain.
Yes.
Very dangerous to have a seizure.
Yeah.
Because once that person, if he come out or she come out that seizure, it ain't guaranteed that they are gonna be the same. Once oxygen stop coming in, it's a wrap.
Electricity.
Say, thank God you come back to yourself after that seizure.
Yeah.
That's right. God is with you. You ever come back from a seizure, God is with you in that seizure. There was one time, man, my mom was in a seizure, and at the end of the seizure, she stopped breathing. Yeah. I pushed down her chest. Boom, boom, boom. And she started back, called the ambulance. That seizure is dangerous. That seizure will take you out.
It's your brain trying to get back.
That's right.
It's like having a heart attack.
That's right.
With a brain attack. Yeah.
Tom sheet.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
Verse 13. Sorry about that.
Thou shalt not murder.
Thou shalt not murder. So when you take a life that's not justifiable by what God says, God said kill him, that's what you got to kill him for. Oh, I don't agree with that. You want to kill your own son? Yes.
It says inhuman.
Would you kill your own? Yes. God said kill him. I'm going to kill him. He said if you have a stubborn and rebellious son that don't hearken to the voice of his father or his mother, and he's a glutton and a drunkard, the penalty for that is death. God said kill him. And you know people disagree with that. You know why? Because their spirit, their emotion is so entangled with their child above what God says.
Honor your child, love God.
Yeah. If my son, I heard a Jamaican said this, and he don't know God. I was sitting on the train coming from work, and I'm sitting there on the train with the Steel King, with my boss, and a Jamaican guy sitting next to me. He said, "Chug, man." He said, "Chug your blood, chug your blood." He ain't even finished it. Your blood. He said, "Yo, if I have our son, and my son turns, if I got him dead."
That's right.
I mean, I gotta run him over, you know.
Right.
He said, I gotta run him over, you know.
Right.
So my boss looked at him in surprise. He said, "You kill your own son?" He said, "Chop yo." He said, "Yeah, what? What do you?"
What do you?
Other man turned, bomb back, oh, you don't see what the man I make up?
You see what happened?
And the boss is looking at him like something wrong.
He's not looking at what the
well,
father's looking
he said,
at.
"Well, I ain't killing my son." He got angry at you. I ain't killing my son.
See, you won't fight there. See,
I said, "Well, that's
see,
the mentality of people. I can't have no son that's a homo.
Please.
My son is all man anyway, thank God."
Yes.
Ain't God, I don't see none of that in him. And my
men.
daughter is a daughter.
We do not condone these things.
Yeah.
All six
See,
of mine are men.
One thing we gotta realize, that's why we gotta be careful with the woman that we have children with.
Right.
And the woman,
That's right.
and the woman gotta be careful with the man that they have children with.
Yeah.
Because when you have children with a man or a woman that have that in their family, background, it goes into, now I may have a son that's not, but then I have a second son and it shows up in my second son. And then you wondering where it came from. Because I done married this woman, or I done married this dude that have it in his family. In his family. Yeah. That's it. That's right. Same thing like the brother said, Down syndrome, or what you call that? Down syndrome, or mental disabilities. When you have, listen, I heard a woman say this before too. You know how many women have had children in their 40s and 50s, and the child don't have any Down syndrome? Where do you get this from that if a woman have a child in their 40s, that it depletes the child from mental defect? No,
that's false.
That's false. That is false.
Yeah.
My mother had children in her 40s, and none of us had Down syndrome. You got women today that have children in their 40s, and none of them have it Down syndrome. If the child come out with any Down syndrome or mental difficulties, it's because they had it in their family. That's it.
That's how it spreads.
That's how it spreads. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Adultery for a man is when he cohabitates or has sex with a married woman. The woman must be married for it to be considered as adultery in the eyes of God. It is not adultery in your eyes, and I don't care what you think about it. Oh, you committed adultery, but God ain't said I committed adultery. God said if the woman is married, I committed adultery. Now, what did God say is, don't be promiscuous. Don't be a whoremonger. The woman ain't not your wife. She's not my wife. I should not be sleeping with her because she's not my wife and she's not my concubine. So I shouldn't be sleeping with her. She's neither of the two. Right. I have a desire this woman to be my wife. Right. And adultery for a woman is when she cohabitate with any man besides her husband. Period. Besides her husband. You go and leave off from the side of your husband and go screw this guy here. That's adultery. That's adultery. And this is what God says. These are not my words. These are not my words. This is not the brother's words or no one's words of God's.
Man didn't make it up.
That's right. God made this. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not steal.
Thou shalt not steal. No. Steal, rob, and deceive. I must not consider you for me to steal from you. Right. Yeah, I didn't consider you. That's why I was able to steal from you and take it. Yeah, well, I let them know I took it and that's it. Wow. Okay.
True.
Tamshi.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
It said, Lo ta'aneh, you should not answer to be a false witness against your neighbor. You should not answer to be a false witness against your neighbor because you don't know what took place or what happened. But you got so much to say. So much to say according to this matter. But I don't know what happened and what took place. I got so much to say. Go ahead, read.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
Covet, lust, or desire. You shouldn't covet or lust or desire your neighbor's house.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Your neighbor's wife.
Nor his manservant.
His manservant.
Nor his maidservant. Nor his ox.
His ox.
Nor his ass. Nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Tamshi.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings, and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
Look, all the people saw the thunderings, the lightnings, the noise of the trumpet, the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they removed and backed up. The mountain was skipping and on fire with smoke, trumpet waxing louder and louder, thunderings and lightnings and noise. They got scared, so they backed up. They said, "I'm not going near that mountain, man." Go ahead, read.
And they said unto Moses, Speak down with us, and we will hear.
He said, Listen, Moses. He said, You speak with us. He said, I'm here. We will hear.
But let not God speak with us.
Listen, we don't want God speaking with us. He said, man, because we gonna die. He gonna kill us.
We can accept that now.
Go ahead, read.
And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you.
That's why God brought the people to that mountain. That's right. To prove them. Demonstration, to show them, to prove to them that, hey, go ahead, read. To prove you.
And that his fear may be before your faces.
That his fear may be before your face. So you can envision this. And by you seeing this, it will instill some type of fear in you. It will instill some type of fear in you. But it only lasted for a minute. After a while, when all that is gone, the fear left them. And they went back to murmuring and complaining. Murmuring and complaining. Go ahead, read.
And that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
That ye sin not. That alone was supposed to prevent them from sinning and breaking the laws and the commandments of God. You hear that? Go ahead.
And the people stood afar off. Moses drew near into the thick darkness where God was.
And the people stood afar off. Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was. Read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You shall not make with me gods of silver. Neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen. In all places where I record my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. And if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon.
Go to, we're going to hit the, let's go to Tobit. We're going to go into the Apocrypha in Tobit, chapter 1.
The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, the son of Ananel, the son of Ajuel, the son of Gabael, of the seed of Asael, of the tribe of Naphtali. Who in the time of Emanessar, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Thebes, which is the right hand of that city, which is called Naphtali in Galilee above Asher. I, Tobit, have walked in all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice.
Hear what he said? He said, I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice. Which means if he's walking in the way of truth, that's what? That's the commandments and the statutes of God. If he's walking in the way of justice, which means what? He didn't treat people.
His ways.
He didn't treat people out of the ordinary that was offensive because he was just. He was a just man.
That's right.
Walked in the way of truth and justice. Look, man. All his life, his whole life. And you want to be able to say that. When you become aware and you start to begin to learn who God is, learn the things that God accepts and the things that he doesn't accept, you need to order your life according to those things so that you will be able to voice certain things with such affirmation, declare certain things with such authority, such confidence. Tamshi.
And I did many alms deeds.
I did many alms deeds to who?
My brethren.
To my brethren.
And my nation.
And my nation.
Who came with me
to Nineveh.
Into the land of the Assyrians.
Into the land of the Assyrians.
Selective.
He was selective with who he did alms to. He was selective with who he gave to. And did he give a reason? No.
He said, my nation and my people.
He said, man, I did many alms deeds to my nation and my people. That's it. Go ahead, read.
And when I was in mine own country, in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father, fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages. Now all the tribes was together revolted, and the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed unto the heifer Baal.
He said they all revolted.
Everybody.
He said they all turned away from God. They all revolted. And they started to sacrifice and build altars to the heifer Baal. He said Baal alone went often to Jerusalem at the feast. He said when he went to the three, when those are 3 appointed times came up, he alone went up to the feast. He went by himself. Right? He said, as it was ordained unto all the people of Israel by an everlasting decree.
Having the first fruits and tenths of increase, with that which was first shorn. And them gave I at the altar to the priests, the children of Aaron. The first part of all increase I gave to the sons of Aaron, who ministered at Jerusalem. Another part I sold away and went and spent it every year at Jerusalem. And the third I gave unto them to whom it was meet, as Deborah, my father's mother, had commanded me, because I was left an orphan by my father. I was left an orphan by my father, and he didn't have a father or mother. Who took care of him was his father's mother, Deborah. Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, I married Anna of mine own kindred, and of her I begot Tobias. He said, when I became to the age of man, they didn't start having sex at young ages, 12. 13, 14. Because when you start doing these things, start doing manly duties and manly things at a young age, you weaken yourself. You weaken yourself. Everything is in there. Go ahead, Tamshi. I married Anna of mine own kindred, and of her I begot Tobias. And when we were carried away captives to Nineveh, all my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat of the bread of the Gentiles. He said when they was carried away captives, he said, all my brethren and those that were my kindred, he said, they ate of the bread of the Gentiles. Intermens. They ate the bread of the Gentiles. Tamshi. But I kept myself from eating. But he refrained. He refrained and held himself from eating the bread. And look, when we read the book, when it speaks about bread and water, it doesn't mean food. It said lechem. It means bread. Huh? This is food. It said it means bread. Right? It said the kindred did eat of the bread of the Gentiles. Tamshi. But I kept myself from eating. Because I remembered God with all my heart. And the Most High gave me grace and favor before Enemessa, so that I was his purveyor. And I went into media and left in trust with God. His purveyor, that's the person, it says to supply provision, usually as a matter of business. So he was the person that supplied. Okay, go ahead. And I went into media and left in trust with Gabael, the brother of Gabrius, at Rage, a city of Media, 10 talents of silver. Now Now when Enemessar was dead, Sennacherib his son reigned in his stead, whose estate was troubled, that I could not go into Media. And in that time of Enemessar, I gave many alms to my brethren, and gave my bread to the hungry, and my clothes to the naked. And if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried them.
Buried them. He said, I gave many alms to my brethren. I gave my bread to the hungry. He said, I clothed the naked. And if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, he said, I buried them.
Like homeless people.
I buried them.
And if the king Sennacherib had slain any when he was come and fled from Judea, I buried them privately. For in his wrath he killed many. But the bodies were not found, and they were sought for of the king. And when one of the Ninevites went and complained of me to the king,
one of his own people went complaining to the king about his own brother. Go ahead, read.
Understanding that I was sought for to be put to death, I withdrew myself for fear.
So that's just because a person say, "Well, I'm an Israelite," that don't mean you should trust them. You can't trust every Israelite.
No.
Most of these Israelites will give you up.
They turned Samson in.
Most of these Israelites will give you up. So I cannot trust you. I can't trust you.
Get away from Keilah.
That's right.
Then Keilah will give you up.
Give you up. That's right. Tamshi.
Then all my goods were forcibly taken away. Neither was there anything left of me beside my wife Anna and my son Tobias. And there passed not 55 days before two of his sons killed him. And they fled into the mountains of Ararat. And Sarchedonus, his son, reigned in his stead, who appointed over his father's accounts and over all his affairs Achiacharus, my brother Anael's son. And Achiacharus, entreating for me, I returned to Nineveh. Now Achiacharus was a cupbearer and keeper of the signet, and steward and overseer of the accounts. And Sarchedonus appointed him next unto him, and he was my brother's son. And when I was come home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me,
they snatched the man's wife. Till they restored her till they saw fit when it says, Tyler, give the man back his wife. Go ahead.
And my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks.
That's the feast of weeks.
Read. It was a good dinner prepared me, in the which I sat down to eat.
A feast of weeks come about. They acknowledged the feast of weeks, prepared a good dinner. Go ahead, read.
And when I saw an abundance of meat,
when he saw there's a lot of food now, there's a whole lot of food prepared here. Read.
I said to my son,
what he said to his son?
Go and bring what poor man soever shall thou find of our brethren, who was mindful of God.
And lo, I tarry for thee. He said, I'm here waiting for you.
Yeah.
So now he was even specific. He said, listen, go amongst our brethren. And the ones that were mindful of God, bring them on in. The ones that wasn't mindful of God, leave them out there. Yeah. Don't bring these dudes around me.
But he went amongst our brethren.
He went amongst our brethren.
And finally selected.
That's right. And was selected amongst our own selves. Selected amongst our own selves. So don't tell me if I'm violating God, if I'm selective of who I want to give to. I could be selective of who I want to give to.
That's right.
If I decide I just want to give to the ones that is mindful of God,
that's right.
Then God ain't gonna look at me and say I'm wicked and I'm evil. And how you can't do that? Those people that have that mentality, this is the way. Something wrong with your brain. This is the way. You must got a stinge or a complex with yourself. Something wrong with you. If I decide to move that way, according to what I read, ain't nothing wrong. That's the way I'm following the ways and the customs of these men that was chosen by God. You're not gonna catch me in the month of August giving out grab bags to the people in the neighborhood.
Book bags and pencils.
The same kid I done gave a book bag to. It's the same kid that snatch up chips out the corner store and juices
Yeah.
and stuff it in his pocket.
Yeah.
And now I go looking out for this old rebellious kid that don't have no morals.
That's right.
I'm not doing that, man.
No help. No
I'm
help.
not doing that. I'm not doing that, man. I'm not doing that.
That type of charity is citizenship, brother.
Exactly.
It's mindful of God. That's
Mindful of God.
That's where our charity goes. Those are brothers
Look.
who are mindful of God.
Samuel don't want nothing to do with an evil sucker.
That's right.
The prophet Samuel ain't want nothing to do with nobody that's evil. He separated himself. You see how he shunned King Saul? God shunned him. And he shunned who God shunned.
Yes, sir.
He shunned who God shunned. Go ahead, read.
But he came again and said, Father, one of our nation is strangled and is cast out in the marketplace. Then, before I had tasted of any meat, I started up and took him up into a room.
Before I ate, I got my food right there. He said, but my son told me that one of our people was strangled in the marketplace. He put his food down, pushed to the side, and went to go bury the dead of his own people. They hung him, had him hanging up. Just left him there. Read.
I started up and took him up into a room until the going down of the sun. Then I returned.
Took him down from being hanged, took him, pulled him into a room until it got dark. Because he can't do it in light. He's going to be seen. He had to hide and do this. Go ahead, read.
Then I returned and washed myself and ate my meat in heaviness, remembering that prophecy.
He said, I returned and I washed myself. Even though that's not going to remove the uncleanness, because there's the priest has to remove that. But he's still with the water of separation. But he's still washed. Go ahead, read.
Remembering that prophecy of Amos, as he said, your feast shall be turned into mourning, and all your mirth into lamentation. Therefore I wept. And after the going down of the sun, I went and made a grave
and buried him.
But my neighbors mocked me.
My neighbors mocked me. His own people mocked him.
This man is not yet afraid.
This man is not yet afraid
to be put to death for this matter.
Put to death for this matter.
Who fled away.
And
yet lo, he buried the dead again.
And yet lo, man, he ain't learned, man. He out there burying the dead again. Go ahead, read.
The same night also I returned from the burial and slept by the wall of my courtyard.
This was a man that did not put his self before God.
Yeah.
He put God first, even if it meant his life. Even if it regards his life, he still put God first.
Yeah.
Regardless of what?
Tom
sheet.
The same night also I returned from the burial and slept by the wall of my courtyard, being polluted. And my face was uncovered. And I knew not that there were sparrows in the wall. And mine eyes being open. The sparrows muted warm dung in mine eyes. And a whiteness came in my eyes. And I went to the physicians, but they helped me not. Moreover, Achiacharus did nourish me until I went into Elamites. And my wife Anna did take woman's works to do. And when she had sent them home to the owners, they paid her wages and gave her also besides a kid.
So Anna went and did woman's work. She sold. She went, sold it. They gave her a young goat, a young kid, right? For her wages, right?
Paid her wages and gave her also a kid.
Right. Verse 13.
And when it was in my house, I began to cry.
In the house, he began to cry.
I said unto her, from whence is this
where you
kid?
Get this kid from?
Is it not stolen?
He said, did you steal it?
Render it to the owners.
He said, give it back to the owners.
For it is not lawful to eat.
It is not lawful to eat anything that is stolen.
Right. But she replied upon me, it was given for a gift, more than the wages. Howbeit, I did not believe her.
I didn't believe her.
I bade her render it to the owners.
And she didn't feel no way. She didn't, you don't believe me? You really think
you're calling me a whore.
You're calling me a liar? She didn't get like that. See, that's how you can find out if a woman, she kept her femininity. She kept her humility. That's how you can tell if a woman is really feminine. When you yell at her, do she yell back? Do she scream at you? Who you yelling at? Who you think?
Does she keep her attitude?
Stay humble.
That's how you know if a woman is feminine or not.
No, my Lord.
She said, no, my Lord. Well, she got to read.
Howbeit I did not believe her, but bade her render it to the owners. And I was abashed at her.
He said, I was ashamed at her. Read.
But she replied upon me.
Well, look what she told.
Where are thine arms?
Where's your arms?
And thy righteous deeds.
And your righteous deeds.
Behold, thou and all thy works are known.
Thou and all thy works are known. He said, which means, she said, if I do this, I'll be shaming you.
Right.
I'll be shaming you. I could never do this because your righteousness and your ways before God is known. So I'm not going to be nothing less than that.
I can't be no other way.
I can't be no other way than that.
Perfect reply.
That's right. Excellent reply. And with that, I already got what was bought. Let me say, Kagmazot Shalom.
Kagmazot Shalom.
And I'm going to call up the next speaker, Teacher indeed, Chief Mikhail. We're in level.
Let's go.
I think so.
Giving all praises to the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Giving all due respect to my father, the teacher, and the leader, Chief Eleazar Ben Dodo of the tribe of Levi.
Right.
Giving all due respect to chief men, prince men, brothers and sisters, mothers in Israel. I bid you all the tongue of our forefathers. Shabbat Shalom. I just want to recount on what you brought in Tobit,
Yeah.
right? Even in donations, we do things different.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do is different. We get charity, we get donations, right? But if we're not amongst heathen, right or wrong,
Right.
how can I look out for them if I'm not amongst them? I don't live amongst them. Okay? And in that situation, it said, go amongst your brethren.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The Ninevites were the people who lived there already.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the Assyrians. Weren't the Israelites.
Right.
That's why he said, go amongst, don't go, let's go out and kill anybody. Because it seems like Babylon and Nineveh and all that had a lot of homeless people and people that was messed up. He said, only your brethren. So when I get, and I'm looking to give, it's going to be my brethren.
Mm-hmm.
First.
Yes.
And only. People will bless you in the name of their God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm sick and I go to the hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only those that serve the Most High God can come see me.
Yeah.
I learned something. From certain experiences. Nobody else. If you do not serve God, don't come and see me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you pray, who are you going to pray to? The Most High God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if this heathen come, it could be a heathen friend. They not going to, they're not going to pray to my God.
Right. Right.
So I learned to experience certain things. And that's going to make you move different. And it's going to offend people. Yes, it's going to offend people. It offend you first.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because you say, oh, wow, I'm like this. I got to start doing this to change. Now you got it, right?
Right.
Now, how you move is going to offend everybody else once they're not on that same plane.
Right. Right. Right.
So, yeah, I'm going to look different. I'm going to move different. A lot of people just not going to like you. Israelites ain't going to like you for it. So don't expect nothing from me.
Right.
Our goal is to focus
Keep it buck.
on ourselves and God.
Keep it buck. Keep it buck.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these things are distractions. Now we're going to go to the book of the law.
Keep it buck.
Deuteronomy chapter 16. Yeah, 16.
Deuteronomy 16.
Deuteronomy chapter 16.
Observe the month of Abib and keep the Pesach.
Observe the month of Abib means this, because another part in the law, what the Most High say, the month Abib is is the beginning of the months. The months that you had, you start counting here.
Right.
This is number 1 month.
Right.
That's it. You don't have to celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
There's no such thing as a New Year's celebration.
Right.
We cannot add on. We cannot add on the ways and the customs of the people of ancient and today, because it's a mixture. New Year's was started in Babylon, was observed in Babylon. The book of Daniel, that celebration that they was having, when they had all of God's utensils that they got from the temple, they took out the room and they had all the noblemen and their wives and concubines drinking out of those cups. Right. Those were God's cups that were used by the Levites to offer wine offerings. You understand what I'm saying? And they didn't; those Levites didn't use those for themselves. That was only for the purpose to sacrifice to the Lord. That's it. Okay. That's why God said those were his cups and his altar. He said, don't bring no tree near my altar, not your altar. Right. So when they did that, that was on the eve of New Year's, that's right. Which was originally celebrated on October 31st. That's right. That's right. Okay? That's right. I started on October 5th, went to October 31st, and that left the mark, and then it changed to January 1st. Right. October 31st, today is Halloween, am I correct? Right. So think about it. It went from October 5th to October 31st to January 5th. There's a trail that it left with these dates. We don't commemorate these dates. The Most High is another part where he said at the end of the year, the Feast of Booths comes in. At the end of the year, in the 7th month. Right. But in that 7th month, there are people that say it's the beginning of the new year. Right. But God says the end of the year. Right. So don't get caught up. Observe the month of Abib. Keep the Passover until the Lord thy God. Now, this commandment was for the people then, for Moses and them in the wilderness. When he said to pass that Passover part, they did that part. Right. They still have the Levites there. They can still give up a offering of fire unto the Lord. Right. Okay? On the Shabbat, only the Levites offer. Their offerings still go on. Yeah. It don't stop. They're the only ones that are allowed to do that within the tabernacle or the temple. That's what went on continually. The morning, noon, and evening sacrifice. Okay, that went on continually. Right. Now that has stopped, there should be nobody sacrificing no lamb at the eve of Passover, because we cannot do this part no more. He said, therefore thou shalt sacrifice. He said, for in the month of Abib, the Lord God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Now, I'm gonna be so frank and real straight up with y'all. We didn't get brung out. We were not the ones that got brung out. This was direct to the ones that got brung out. He said, because I brung you out. This was fresh out. He said, y'all got to do this when this time comes. Okay? After that era, they didn't do that no more. They didn't have to. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why I said that generation that came out of Egypt, certain things only apply to them because they lived in the wilderness. They didn't have no houses. Certain laws they didn't have to worry about. Right. They lived out in the desert. Right. Remember, in the wilderness, don't think jungle. Don't think it's trees out there. They're in the desert. Right. Right? Remember that the wilderness of sin, all these places are desert. Kirchhoff, Hataba, and all these places were some deadly, hazardous places. Okay? So this is for that era, for them. He said, in the month of Aviv, I brought you forth out of the land of Egypt by night. He said 12 midnight. That's when the death angel went over the land of Egypt and destroyed all the firstborn in Egypt, except for the Israelites that dwelt in the land of Goshen, that had the blood from that lamb, the sacrifice of the Passover. That's what they had to do. Boom, put the blood here, put the blood here, from that lamb, put the blood up here. When the angel of death sees that, that's not going to, it doesn't, oh wow, his blood there is going to, oh, he's going to die like kryptonite. That's the sign that these people here serve God. You can't touch nothing in there. Pass over them.
That's right.
That's why it's called Passover. That's the name. Okay, so, and then after that, while they was being moved out at night, they was being rushed. We know the story. All of us Israelites know the story. I ain't got to go to it. It said the Egyptians was upon them in haste. It said, hurry up and get out of here before what? We be all dead men. Some of them even told Egypt, Pharaoh, listen, man, let them people go. You see what's going on? You got to stop stuff. The more you keep, you got to stop this. Let the people go and do serve their God. We can look at the land. We don't have nothing left no more. After the cattle got hit up, and the crops got hit up with the hail, the rain, and all that fire ripping through the ground. You can't plant nothing. When you torch the ground, and they used to take the ground and set fire to it. You can't put nothing down there no more. Some guys got real fancy later on in history, and they put salt. They said, go with the plow, with the cattle, but you're not planting seeds. You're putting salt there. You know what that does to the ground? Makes it infertile.
Especially when the rain comes.
When the rain comes, it spread more, and that land is done. That's why in the east it looks so dry. Most lands out there look dry because kings back then come take over your land, taking your people, and there ain't no going back. So guess what? All your crops is mine. And that land that you had there, nothing's coming out of it. They prided themselves on that. Listen, this guy said, I, Nebuchadnezzar, have made lands desolate, have made empires unfertile. Okay? The declaration of these kings, that they all thought they were God. So you got to understand what God said, I'm going to give you a land of flowing with milk and honey, but y'all got to keep these commandments and laws. If not, they're going to come. And they're going to take you captive. And they're going to take your stuff. They're going to take your woman. They're going to take your sons, kill them, make them eunuchs. God told them. It ain't like God warned them. God told them. When you get warned, there is no excuse when they go down. Don't cry. You can't cry. And he warned them. That's why the land looked like that now. That's why it's all divided up. It's confusion over there. That's why on days like this, they bomb up Jerusalem. Okay? On the wrong day it comes, they bomb them up. They beat them up. Well, these guys, they come up because none of them belong there. Nobody is on that grounds serving God. That area called Israel was meant for people to serve God in order to live. And don't you understand how it went? When the Canaanites had it first, and what happened? God said, yo, they're nicotine pill. Yeah, just chill. Your descendants, by the time their stuff fill up, your descendants going to be coming out by a mighty hand. They're going to be strong. I'm going to strengthen them, and I'm going to be with them. And the order was what? When you get into Canaan land, Deuteronomy 7, whack them. He said, utterly destroy the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, Perizzites, Jebusites. Don't leave none alive. Don't make no deals. Don't make no covenant with them.
So he messed up.
He said, don't make no deals or no covenants with them. Because that's gonna mean they're not gonna die off. I need for them to go.
Yeah.
Because if they stick around you, they're going to corrupt you. You, guess what? You're going to follow them. You're outnumbered, you're outclassed, you're outpowered. Okay? And there's only one design for you, and it's not going to work with them around you or you around them. They're going to have idols and groves and this. So when you get down there, you got to destroy all that. You're going to run into my name. God told them. He said, but you shall not destroy my name.
That's right.
So anywhere where they found God's name, they took it and they saved it and put it up somewhere in a safe place. Our Father did. All these things, this is the way. This is the way to serve God. The commandments and how to go, because the commandments ain't going to cover certain situations like that. So God says certain things that are outside of it. What he liked, what he did, he said, yo, you shouldn't do that. So we said, man, but don't say this in the Lord. Listen, man. But God said out his own mouth, before, during, or after, not to do this thing, or he looked down on this action, or he looked down on this saying, or he looked down on this feeling you have toward his commandments. He voices it. Those are all his commandments. He has personal. That's why he said, Abraham followed my commandments, my statutes, my judgments, my charge. It's a different thing now. Those are direct commandments. That's come and go here and do that and do this. That's beside thou shalt not. That's a direct commandment personally for you.
That's right.
He said he did that and personal commandments and my voice. I didn't even have to be speaking to him. If somebody did something that was not correct and I voiced it, it was as if I was speaking to him. That's what it means. When he anything that has to do with God, boom, you press pause. You paid attention to, wait a minute. If somebody's declaring the word of God, everybody shut up. Right or wrong?
Yes.
She said, hey, keep them kids quiet. And you women be quiet. Right or wrong? These are the manners of godly people. It brings manners. So he said he listened to my voice, and that's real important. When somebody is saying, yo, in the law, or Ima said, or Abba said, we gotta listen to that, man.
Right.
We don't listen to that. You gotta remember who declared this. I don't care what happened or how you feel. You gotta stick to it no matter how you feel. They had to stick to a lot of stuff no matter how they felt. He said, look, man, I just whacked your sons because they did that. Don't even cry. You can't even mourn, dog. You can't even mourn. He couldn't even mourn his sons. Certain people you couldn't even mourn. Direct command, right or wrong. But that was because you're on a different level. So certain things apply to you more than they apply to this guy and these people here. They are common Israelites. You had common Israelites back then like you do now. The regular followers. The ones that don't read. The ones that don't listen. The ones that say, oh, this is my teacher, that's my teacher. But you don't do nothing with them teachers. Not one teacher tell you. Not one. How I'm your teacher, and when I tell you these things, you don't follow and you don't listen. Because I'm not getting this out of my own head. Some of us have been trained by the best. Right or wrong, son? Look, that led by example. Taught by example. Okay? So, where's the students at? Where's the honorary students? Where they at? Well, we got all these great teachers that everybody, look. And we do have some great teachers in Israel, from Benai to now. Extraordinary. That if we listen to what they say, instead of getting mad at them and getting in their business, what they said about Moses, the Lord applied to him too. He go marry an Ethiopian woman. Moses said, hey, you have to, I gotta come here. Yeah. Look, I picked him to teach y'all. I picked him to do certain things y'all not capable of doing. He's the most faithful in my house. Watch him out. Be easy. Take what he's teaching you. That's what God told him. Because look, this guy, he knows, look, certain privileges he gonna do, he know I allow him to do what? The Ethiopian woman is serve God.
That's right.
Tell me that. That Ethiopian woman is one thing, man. Your woman has to serve God like you.
That's right.
Right on.
That's right.
And he said, look, him, he turns people. He don't get turned.
That's right.
But he can do that.
She was a virgin.
He's a different level. Ethiopian woman, a stranger, a foreigner. But he flipped her, what we call flipping. He trained her, and he flipped her to the point where, nah, man, she at some time declared, I know that stuff is fake. What he said, now I know from what you telling me, Moses, my son-in-law, I know that God, he is the God of gods. I know he is it now. So whatever he was serving and he was the priest of, he deaded that. He deaded that. He deaded that. At the end of Nebuchadnezzar's days, God broke him. God, listen, I mean, look at leaders and say, oh man, he's so arrogant and he's this and he's that. He has a spirit on him. Most of them have a spirit on them, especially if they don't serve God, they have a spirit of pride. And look, after a while, they start saying they God. That's why the Most High tell the king, read this book every day, that your heart be not lifted up amongst your brethren. Because you're going to start saying, you God. You're going to start moving out of turn and thinking, I don't roll with that. Dad, you got to stay in tune with me. Because if not, your position, that's a heavy position. Rule the world. The one man that can say, whatever he say goes. Because he run all these countries. Nebuchadnezzar, 127 provinces. That's 127 countries that was around at that time. And he ran all of them. Whatever he said goes. If you voiced your opinion, back then in these days, your opinion will get you killed.
Your opinion.
Even if the opinion is right. Look, you're outnumbered right now. The only way somebody gonna say something is if God tell them to. Say, look, man, don't worry about them. Go there and tell them I said, thus say the Lord. They're going. That's what made the prophets separate from everybody. Because the prophets were used to berate and rebuke and correct kings. Not just our kings, foreign kings. Oh yeah. Certain kings was meant, God was meant for them. He said, look, since Israel messing up, I'm gonna make this king pop off. I'm gonna make this guy pop off. So you go speak to him and prophesy, let him know he gonna become some stuff, man. That's why he looked at the guy, hey dad, and he cried out. Hey dad said, what happened? He said, yo man, you gonna become king. When you become king, you're gonna burn off, you're gonna burn Israel. You're gonna do us dirty, you're gonna kill the children. He said, man, nah, man, I could never do this. I could never do that. But look, from the time he left the prophet to the time he got back to Syria, his spirit changed. To go along with that prophecy. What sealed actions works in his hands. The first, before he got to what got him able to follow the prophecy through and bring it out in him, he killed his master. Yeah. You got in order, you got to shed innocent blood. That's what it means. You got to shed innocent blood. Innocent blood has to be shed to go into that world war. He said, yo, he killed the king by wetting the cloth and suffocating.
While he was sleeping.
While he was asleep. You notice that they always try to get back there, they wait for you to sleep. You notice that? It's not the first time in the book they did that to somebody. Didn't they chop off somebody's head while he was asleep? That's dishonorable, man. Amongst warriors, that's dishonorable. He said, yo, let me go up in there. While he up in there right now, he said, I'll hit that dead dog. He's talking about Saul. He said, man, fuck it. We can't even sneak him or face him. He's Lord's anointed. Even though he chasing me and trying to kill me. You see the humility?
That's real.
You see that?
Real.
Because look, that's his father-in-law. But he got to give him the same as the father, plus on top of a king. These people, and God gave them great reward because, they did not turn against these commandments, no matter what position they was in, no matter what the situation was. All David kept saying is, what did I do, man? And he would rather not face Saul than face him.
Take a lot, man.
Yeah.
Okay?
That take a lot.
Look, and those 5 lords of the Philistines, they had some. They said, nah, we don't want your man David to go. Don't bring him with us. But when he is not gonna turn. Look, they knew that was one thing they knew about us, man. At the end of the day, man, all differences to the side, it's us against the world. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we're the only ones that's busting our butts and forcing ourselves to live and serve God and live upon his name and think and consider his name.
Right.
That's why everybody can't do it. Okay? If it was an easy thing, everybody would be doing it. And that's what these men did. They went through the fire. They went through a lot of them died keeping the commandments of God. And they said it's great reward. So it ain't here. But they died. They got strangled. We heard one that's got strangled. You know what they was doing in there to us, man? Only the Israelites. No other nation. There was other nations there. And that was the thing. Israelite get killed, you don't bury him, you leave him out there. Yeah. That's why Sennacherib in the Old Testament, see that part goes along with Tobit. Because that's the same Sennacherib that ran down on Hezekiah.
Right.
That's the same Sennacherib that the Most High put the death angel out. Okay? And hit their camps up in the form of mice, field mice. And made him go back. It's in there. Oh yeah, it's the same timeline. And he left and went back. Okay, because he already took the 10 tribes. He only got Jerusalem left. He stepped to Jerusalem, but Hezekiah served God. God held him down, so he pushed him back by destroying his troops. Okay, he went back mad. We just read about it in Tobit, right? He came back mad, killing up Israelites. Tobit burying, that's what made me killing up more now. He taking it out on Israelites. Yeah, y'all, bring me like 20 Israelites here, line them up in the square and just killed them and left them there for an example. And we were done dirty out there like that. Okay? Verse 3, thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. Now, this is not the piece of unleavened bread part. When he said, thou shalt not eat no leavened bread with it, that was the sacrifice. So we don't have to deal with the sacrifice. This is the part we deal with, Tashi.
Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt.
7 days. This is the part that we keep, was count. 7 days, thou shalt eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. But thou camest, this is why, because you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, in a hurry. You were hurried, you were rushed, didn't have time to knead the dough. Kneading the dough has already been sitting. You think I'm mixing water and flour in the middle of the night in the field running out? Do you really think that was doing it like that? What? We about to get out of here? Oh, what? Yo, hurry up and make some dough. Hurry up and make some dough. Hurry up and make some dough. Yeah, but yo, we're not going to be able to leaven it. We ain't got time for that. Just make the dough, move out. Because they could carry the ovens with them. They said, make the dough and move out. That's how they moved out. There was no time to. The kneading trough is as big as a board and wide. For a woman can get on each side and knead dough. And that's what makes it leavened. The dough been there. They didn't make the dough while it was moving out. They made it right before they moved out. They got the word it's time to go. He said they didn't have time to knead. He says because they didn't have time to leaven their bread because their kneading troughs were bound in their shoulders. in their luggage that they strapped on their back. The kneading trousers up in there. They ain't got time to sit down. They don't have time. You left in haste. So being that you left in this manner, you didn't get to leaven your bread. You didn't get to leaven it. Leavening is kneading. So by doing that, you took the dough and just threw it right in. I don't care how long that dough was sitting. If it got soured, it wasn't leavened. See, the fermentation and all of this stuff happens all the time. It happens all the time. God was only concerned about your bread being fermented by leavening it. That's what it's all about. Okay? If I have an apple and I bite into that apple and I leave it here, I come back 15 minutes later, it gets darker. That's fermentation, but that's not leavening. That's not what God's talking about. Okay? That's not what God is talking about. It's clear here. Okay? It's clear. Okay? Whatever is leavened in your houses, the only thing that was leavened was bread. They didn't have processed food. They didn't have cabinets and refrigerators. They didn't have processed food. Okay? They didn't have all these things. But you got to read ingredients and know what baking soda comes in so many different forms of words. Leavening. This come in different. You have leavening agents. You have agents. You got stuff that you got to put in the bread that help, like yeast. Okay? And like baking soda. Baking powder. Right? Baking soda. Okay. These things they didn't use. They didn't have that. That didn't exist. The only way their bread was leavened by kneading. Kneading. And that they did for a long time. Anything that's put in a machine and being mixed is kneaded also. That dough is being kneaded. Okay? So the dough is in the mix being kneaded for hours, sometimes overnight, sometimes from the morning all the way through. And then they take that well-kneaded dough, nice and fluffy, and flatten it out. It's not even bread. It's not even made in loaves or slices or chunks. It's flattened out.
Use a rolling pin, roll it out.
And it's rolled through, roasted real quick. That is not leavened bread.
No, they roll it out for a while. Then they punch holes in there.
See, I didn't even say the name.
Yeah.
But just the description. See, don't let the names throw you off.
Yeah.
Just the description alone tells you that it's not bread that they ate. So that's the only way you leaven bread. That's the only fermentation, oil and all of that stuff is concerning the bread. And stop trying to get scientific. Everything ferments. What you think decomposing is? A form of fermentation of a body when life is drawn out of it. What you think when what happens to leaves when they fall from the ground and start turning? That's a form of fermentation also. God ain't talking about that. Everything has to deteriorate and change form once it's exposed to air. So stop playing with me. That leavening, you know what you're doing? You're punching out the air that's in that dough. You're punching it out. The longer, and I watched my mother used to make bread, and she used to flip it, beat it, throw it in the air, boom, 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 boom. Make her bread by hand. And it came out soft. Right or wrong? It came out soft. Sit it down for a while, let it sit, then go back to it again. Boom, 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 boom. The pizza man, he made pizza. What you see him doing with that bread? He beat that dough too.
Yes, sir.
It got leaven in it, it got yeast in it. He still beat it.
It got conditioners in it. No conditioners.
Why? To condition. That's why when they put in bread, conditioners. This, all of that is to control the texture of the bread and it preserved. So it stays on the stand for almost a month before it starts to turn. So that's what the leavening is. It's only concerning the bread. It has nothing to do with your perfume. That does not have yeast in it. That is not bread.
I use some axe to do it.
Seriously. We need to stop. because you're taking the word science and going too far with it.
Yeah.
Everybody want to be a science and add this way of scientific thinking to what we know the molecular structure. No. Stop that.
A lot of that.
Stop it, man.
Everybody want to be an Egyptian Frederick Douglass.
Egypt tops.
Look. The animals that chew the cud, you ain't got to go into no scientific explanation. All animals that chew the cud have more than one stomach.
That's right.
That's the reason why they chew the cud.
I want credit.
They said the coney, the rabbit, chew the cud. He said, but he's not cold-blooded, and he don't split the hood. Therefore, he's unclean to you. He chew the cud. He got more than one stomach, but he don't fit the other two characteristics, so he's out of it. So let's stick to these, what God say, all right? And we all know that animals that chew the cud have more than one stomach.
Yeah,
Some have three, some have two, some have four. So it's not going too far into that. Camels got more than one stomach. They're unclean. Their flesh is unclean to us.
Teach. Yes, sir.
So let's not go. We're going too far to impress other people.
That's it.
It's not about you.
Try to impress the Most High.
The things you're supposed to go far in, you don't go far in.
That's right. Try to impress the Most High.
Concerning blood and fat.
AKA cutoff zone.
They don't go into that.
AKA cutoff.
They don't go into that.
No good.
Drain the animal. All right. The only way you're supposed to be slaughtering animals is to eat it. Not sacrificing, not because of the Passover. You have to leave that alone. That is a demonic situation you're putting yourself into. God said if it is not done the way I'm telling you to do it here, you are sacrificing the devils. And all those who attend, even if you don't eat it, you are part of it. Okay? You're not part of it.
That's true.
So, well, yo, I'm not gay, but you was in a gay dance. You went to a whole dance. They had gay people in there. Yeah, but I didn't mess with nobody.
I just got big friends.
Does that rock?
We just cool, man. I ain't gay, man. I don't know what to do, man. We just cool.
But you, nah. So it's the same thing. These people are taking a lamb because it's Passover time now. It's the only time they do this.
No, you can eat lamb.
Yeah, we used to do it.
Yeah.
Ben I used to do it. Look, it wasn't Ben I, none of y'all would know about God. It wasn't for Ben I Zakim.
Patriarch.
Okay? We the ones that spread it. They spread it. And they used to do things. They used to do that. I remember in the backyard. I had the pit going and the whole lamb is roasting.
Yeah, I remember that.
But we wasn't supposed to do that. You know when we realized? Mahaba realized he made something going on here. Somebody brought in a female,
young female
that was pregnant.
She was pregnant.
When they killed the lamb, the baby fell out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
Quiet room.
Buying these lambs from people, these lambs, it ain't even come from your yard. You can't buy from nobody. They couldn't buy from their own brother and say, well, look, man, I don't have, let me buy one of your goats so I can take it up to the tabernacle for a sin offering. No, it has to be out of yours. If it's not yours, leave it alone. Today, nobody got that. I know a brother, he sells goats down there. That's for eating. That's for eating. Leave it for eating or using their skin. That's what they did. Because if you get caught sacrificing outside the boundaries of the rules, you are serving another God. And at one time, Joshua sent a priest and 10 Levites all the way across the Jordan River back to Naphtali and them because he heard they built an altar. So okay, they built an altar and said, wait a minute, there's only one altar. God's altar. There's only one. We ain't supposed to have no other altar. Am I right or wrong? We're not supposed to have no other altar. That's why Joshua sent those men with the priest, an official, an officer of the law. And he's there, and they say, yo, what you mean by this altar? Like, what y'all doing with this here? They say, hold up. We don't do nothing. We don't sacrifice nothing. We don't do no work on this. There's nothing. We don't pray to it. Nobody comes there and write their name or put notes in here. Okay? Listen, man. Nobody come there to say, everybody doesn't come here and migrate here at this time of the year at this date.
No.
We don't do that here. We just have this here. We so far away from you guys, man, that later on down the line, you know how children are.
Mm-hmm.
Your children will tell my children, our children over here, in time, hey, y'all ain't got no part in this.
Mm-hmm.
Because children do that. It's the children, there's children that do that.
Yeah.
They say, now, you can, but you can't have no inheritance from my dad. Everybody else can, but not you. That's all, that thing, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
Right or wrong?
Right.
And if that go down, we have proof. This is a witness. Don't you notice a lot of times they say, "Oh man, hold on. This rock right here, you pour some oil on it, and this is a witness between me and you.
Right.
That me and you can't have no beef. Me and your sons can't have no beef. Right? The rock eats harmony, like Jacob. You see? It's always so. It's not like if later on in generations after, people take these places and these artifacts and this stuff and worship it.
Mm-hmm.
They worship it.
Mm-hmm.
They corrupt the meaning of it. They corrupt themselves. They corrupt the whole thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
God said, third circumcision on the 8th day for a male. Right? The first circumcision was done in Abraham's house. The first men to get circumcised was in Abraham's house. Abraham did himself. He did Isaac. He did Ishmael. He did all the men that lived in his house, his servants, right? Lot, whoever. And then, but these guys, the men, was older than 8 days old, right or wrong. Ishmael was 13 years old, right or wrong. Abraham was what? 99? So how come they only center in on Ishmael in his 13 years? And when you hit 13, it's a bar mitzvah. And when a woman hit 13, it's a bat mitzvah. Where do you get that from? When you hit 13 over here, and this other thing here, you go to communion. When you're 13, you get communion in the Catholic world.
Yeah.
Over in Africa, I forgot the name of it, but their genitalia gets pierced when they turn 13. Yeah. The girls and the boys. This is the beginning of them wearing plates in their ears and all. It's the first thing gets pierced in their life is in their genitalia. The girl and the boy. This is where all piercings come from and all tattoos come from. They come from the culture and the order of African. They say African. It's Hamitic. Right. All Africans come out of Ham. Yeah. All black people did not come out of Ham. All black people did not come out of Shem. Mm-hmm. All black people did not come out of Yahweh. Yeah. It's all black, and they went to different regions, mixed different, did different. Some stayed here, some went there, some went there. Mm-hmm. The children of Ham went to Africa, the continent of Africa, and made Egypt, which is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the name of a man. The land was named after him. Yeah. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mitzrayim.
Cush. We have 4 brothers. Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan.
Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and who?
Canaan.
And Canaan. That's why I said that's Canaan land. Because all the sons of Canaan and their tribes, just like Jacob, went here and then stayed right there and inhabited Canaan land. Mm-hmm. The land that the Israelites were told to take over and conquer. You get it?
Yeah.
So the continents are different. Yeah. If you read in the genealogy and go down, you will see the names and you'll see, oh wow, this is the man. It was a man before it was a land, there was a man. And that back then, I named the land after me. That's why he said, yo, David, pull up before I named the city after me. Or I name it after my son. They did that too, right or wrong, cuz, huh?
Yeah.
They named it after my son.
That's right.
So that was the ways of
And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest the first day at even remain all night until the morning.
See, sacrificing, we leave that alone. We don't have to deal with that part. We don't have to deal with that part. Tell you.
Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates.
Now, if we were still doing, or say, hey, we were still doing the Passover, we still can't do it. We are in any of our gates now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not where God said to do this at.
Mm-hmm.
It's still invalid. Time sheet.
But at the place which Elohim thy El shall choose to place his name in.
Where's that place right now? Don't say Jerusalem, because it's not there either.
Right.
Where is the place that God chose to place his name right now in 2023? Let's stop playing games. Where is God's name being housed at? Where? Nowhere right now. Sacrifice done.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being devilistic. All those guys that's doing that, they're really down with something else, man. Tom Sheep.
But at the place which Elohim thy El shall choose to place his name in, there shalt thou sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which Elohim thy El shall choose.
You gotta be in the tabernacle or in the temple, in the time of the temple. You gotta be where the altar is housed at. The altar of God is there. Okay? The ark is in the Holy of Holies. These things have to be here alive and present. You have to be within the town, wherever that God placed these things at, with the Levites, high priest, with the breastplate, holiness to the Lord. All of that has to be in place before this is done.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta leave this part alone. They did that.
Yeah.
They was able to do that because they said that's why God commanded them to do that part.
Mm-hmm.
He said, keep the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Mm-hmm.
We can only keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Tom Sheep.
But at the place which Elohim thy El shall choose to place his name in, there shalt thou sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun,
Right.
at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which Elohim thy El shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the bulkhead and go into thy tents. 6 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Elohim thy El.
Today.
Thou shalt do no work there.
Today. That's today. That's today. Yeah. I announced last week on the first day that today, the 13th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday will be the last day. We're doing the same thing. You know how many calls I got? Yo, when's the last day? When's the last day? When's the last day? So I'll be telling you, people, start paying attention. Please. Y'all out there too. Pay attention. Pay attention. Tom Sheep.
7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as
7 weeks you number unto you. This is called the counting of the Omer.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It's a countdown from Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Feast of Weeks. The countdown ends on the Feast of Weeks. You count 7 weeks. That's 49 days.
Right.
And the next is on the 50th day, you have a holy convocation on that day. That's another commemorative feast day that we are commanded to observe, feast, marry, be happy, party, drink. Those are the times. God tell us when and what season to do these things. And it's always a memorial with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, wow, well, today's hamburger day. The next day is waffle day. You know what I'm saying? They make up their own days today. You can't make up. God tells you the days. That's how it goes. So there shouldn't be no Shabbat Gadol. There's nothing bigger than the Shabbat.
What?
There's nothing bigger than the Shabbat. It shouldn't even come out. It shouldn't have that thought shouldn't exist. It shouldn't be like that. Let's just give it another name and meet up on another day. The unity of Israel. And we all meet up. Everybody come through. Keep in touch with each other. We can do that. Right? But don't make it on a Shabbat or make it a holiday out of it on the Shabbat also. But that's what it is. Tom Sheep.
Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto Elohim thy El with a tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto Elohim thy El, according as Elohim thy El hath blessed thee.
We can't do that either. That's a commandment.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have some crops.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give a tribute of a free will offering from my hand, not yours. I can't borrow yours or buy somebody else's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Good.
He said, and give it unto the Lord thy God. Now, I'm not going to give it to here, God, this is yours. He said, I bring it to the priest like Tobit did. See what Tobit did? He said he gave one part to the priest and Aaron and his sons, another part, that's given to the Lord.
Okay.
When you bring it to where his name being worshipped and his sacrifices going on, you are helping keeping the sacrifices going.
Give it to the poor. That's right.
Okay?
To the people.
You are helping feeding the family of the man that has been consecrated to do this all day, every day of his life. He can't go and do this. He can't go and do that. He can't go and do this. So certain things, you guys got to start bringing it in. But when you start serving other gods, the tights and the corn and the oil and all that stuff, beans, everything go over there. And whoever is in charge of the God, that's who come up. It's a simple thing. Have people believe in something that they make them think this is real, and they'll come up, they'll give all their substance up. They'll give their life up, they give their substance up.
Yeah.
Because it's in us to serve God.
Mm-hmm.
But the corruption turns you away, and you serve idols, and you serve man, and you serve this.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's in you. You are made to serve the true and living God. But we have been corrupted in the course of time. That we have been derailed. So God said, okay, now I give this guy here, Abraham, I'm going to give one guy this, because he's the only one I see capable, inclined. He has the potential. If I tell him this, he's going to believe me. And he believed him. First time he ever spoke to him. He said, walk before me and be perfect. Be perfect. I'm going to tell you what perfect is. And he ran it to him. That's why later on he told Isaac, man, his father dead now. He said, but your pops did everything I told you. So you got to match that.
Yeah.
And if you match that, I got you the way I had him. And boom, 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 like Chief Shama so perfectly broke down. It spread out to the nations. Now, all over the years now, we wind up here, 2023. Right? We got to follow everything that God said to do, that are able to do in this day and time. Some physical things like sacrifices, the year jubilee, we can't do that. You gotta leave those things alone. All that stuff about breaking a lamb's neck and
sacrifice the calf for your lip.
All of that stuff
takes the place of it. And that's it.
You gotta leave that alone. That has those opportunities.
That's right.
Okay, have been taken away because the people have shown themselves unworthy.
Right.
So if you're really real about this now, you can do it without the opportunities. Make it harder. Now it's got to be that way. That's just how it is. The path is narrow. You can't expect everybody to heed this either. And you wouldn't be elite. Think about it. Wouldn't be separate. Who are we going to be separate from? It's meant for this world to go the way it is. It has to finish its course.
Right.
You understand that? It's not done yet. Everything that's said in this book, certain things, is still to be fulfilled. Most of it is done already. All that stuff about children of Israel coming back, all that stuff happened. The last time we came back from foreign lands as slaves or whatever was in Babylon. And not everybody came back. Mostly everybody chose to stay. Mostly everybody chose to stay for religious or business reasons. That's what the descriptions say. They say, yes, though you have, in this chronicle, they numbered how many people. If you read through the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, they tell you all the dudes that came back. They tell you. It's a lot of names. And then you got his sons. Boom, 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 boom. That was it. Everybody else stayed back there. They didn't want to come home. But that was the last time. Okay? Tom Sheep.
And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto Elohim thy El with the tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto Elohim thy El, according as Elohim thy El hath blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before Elohim thy El, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which Elohim thy El hath chosen to place his name there. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles.
These are the things that they had to remember. I don't know what it was to be a bondman in Egypt. They knew. It's just some of this stuff was direct. He said, yo, you know what it was. You know what you went through there, man. Remember what you went through there, and that's why you're supposed to be happy today. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Be happy and to be grateful with what's going on now. Tom Sheep.
Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine.
Now see, after you gathered in your corn and your wine. Now, when after that, by the time you finish in the corn season of corn, the wine, the grapes, comes in the Feast of Tabernacles. Now you're at the end of the year. But what you plant don't exactly grow all the way. Certain stuff take 2-3 months. Some stuff you get 6 months later. So now, and that's why my Abba always said, God gave us agricultural feasts. The Feast of Weeks, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Tabernacles. Those are also agricultural weeks. It is time to sow, to reap. You're reaping in what you sowed. Now the 7th day of Feast of Unleavened Bread is over. So certain fruits, certain things that will grow at this time, I start planting. By the time 7 weeks come, some of them things is ready. And that's what I take as a tribute of mine to the Lord. And then after that day is over, the next day, get back to work, I plant again. That stuff is ready to be reaped by right before the Feast of Tabernacle time. It was all set up perfectly by God. How she?
Thou shalt rejoice in thy goodness.
I read about it. And thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant, maidservant, and the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates. 7 days thou shalt keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord shall choose. Because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and in all the works of thy hands thou shalt surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God in that place which he shall choose. We are not required by that law no more. But back then, all the men have to pull up and go to Jerusalem, right? He said, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacles, they shall not appear empty before the Lord empty. Because you got it. There's no way you're going to come up there without nothing. You can't come up there without nothing. You see that? He said, thou shalt not appear before the Lord empty. Don't come up here without nothing. Because you got crops growing. I don't bless your crops. I don't did this. I don't did. You got. So you got to come up now. So every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. God give you a little. God gave this man a little. He give up a little. He is not required to give up the same amount as that guy. Okay? And that guy that give up a lot can't be giving up a little. Right. Give up a lot like you got. You got a lot, give up a lot. That's right. It said, every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. Judges and officers thou shalt make in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Don't change it. When you change it, you pervert it. He said, thou shalt not respect persons. He said, because you look highly at this person, or this person did something for you, that makes you respect that person, and you change your judgment as a judge. Okay? For a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise. It blinds the eyes of the wise now, right? I'm not going to be wise in this judgment no more. I'm going to change it, okay? And pervert the words of the righteous. I'm going to change the penalty. I'm going to change the judgment. He said, that which is altogether just shall thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee. This was very important. God mentioned this at least 60 times in the law. He said, don't put no trees or no groves. Don't put nothing. Don't plant nothing. No plant, no nothing near my altar. Because in Baal worship, right, the altar of Baal, and then you got the sacred pole, which is a tree or grove, that is Ashtoreth. That's his wife. That's the god and the goddess. So God said, don't do that. Because once you do that, that's where you're going with it. It's not my altar no more. You're not serving me no more. And people are not supposed to have altars in their house anyway.
Right.
Nobody's supposed to have an altar. Nobody's supposed to make an altar. Nobody is supposed to be going around making altars for people. If you're making an altar for the dead, you are worshiping the dead. Do you know that? You can't do nothing for the dead but cry when you miss them. That's all you can do is bury them and cry when you think about them and miss them. You can't do nothing. You can't have a moment of silence. You can't have no party. You can't have no date that every time you do this, you go to the burial site.
Yeah.
You can't pour no drink out for the dead. You can't do nothing for the dead. This is why God said, leave alone the ordinance of the Egyptians. You learned all that in Egypt.
Yeah.
And Israelites still do it today.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do these things. This is worship. It takes your spirit and corrupts it. Now you're open to bow down to an idol because you worship the dead so much. That's who they worship first. Listen, they worship the dead. The person dies and becomes an idol. When you worship that person, all the things that they do and when a person dies today is worship of the dead. You have made that person an idol. Now you have another idol beside the idol you have already. That is an idol.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
Beside the statues, the pictures, the this and that, the worship of the dead, you can't go to a candle lighting, a vigil. That's what they call it, right?
Right.
Candle vigil. You go put your name up there. You can't do that.
Teddy bears and balloons.
You can't do that. You can't release balloons. I'm releasing balloons for my dead grandmother. Can't be a part of that. A toast to the late greats in honor of the late. We don't do that. That's why we don't have tombstones. SABBATH. All these guys say is worship of the dead, and it will make you unholy before him.
That's right.
And the last one says, neither shalt thou set me up any image. He don't care what it is, who it is. That should be plain. That right there should be slain. God said he hated it. He don't care what you got it there for, what the purpose is. Don't set it up. When you set up any image, you worship it. When you worship it, it's because you venerate. Whatever you set on high or display is veneration. It's veneration and admiration. You admire these things. Right. So that's why Mahalo put this stuff, the words of the Most High God. Okay? Venerate that. And then now the kids that be coming here, that's what they're copying. Yeah. It keeps them from drawing images. They're not drawing images like before.
No.
They copy this stuff now. Okay, you see what it does?
Yep.
When you go by what God say, it take you to a level where you see the works of it later. You have to put the work in. Tarashit? Oh, that's it.
Chapter 17.
No, that's it. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem.
See you Shabbat.
Aloha.
Peace out, shalom.
Hamazot Shalom Aleichem.